else.
Now, what I like is a little bit of constructive criticism once in a while, and I don't get offended by it or anything like that. It's just that, if you drop some hateful stuff in the comment section, I'm either going to block you and all that kind of stuff. So let's try and be adults on this video, and if I'm wrong at any point in this video, please drop it below, because I never claim to be perfect on everything, but I'm pretty sure I'm right in this video, okay? But if there's a loophole that I haven't seen, and it is possible, please let me know. Now, people say that I'm a Matchroom fanboy. Okay, fine. Truth is, I'm not. I'm actually a British fighter fanboy. That's what I do. That's what I know. I know British fighters more than I do, say, American fighters or German fighters or whatever. I know more about the British fighters. So that's why I talk about British fighters for the most part. Now, when it comes to the Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren rivalry, now, I kind of like that rivalry, but what I don't agree with is the stupidity that goes with it. Much like I don't understand or like the stupidity that goes with a section, and it is a very small section, of the Wilder fan base and the Tyson Fury fan base, because both of them have great sets of fans, but there is a minority of just absolute haters. It doesn't matter what you do, they're there just to hate. They're not supporters of boxing, they just like that fighter. They don't know why, other than it's some kind of war against somebody else online, okay? So again, try and be adult with it. Now, with this whole Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn rivalry, again, when it comes to Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, I see it as very transparent. In all honesty, I do. Whatever they do, I kind of get it. I kind of understand it. And a lot of you guys will understand exactly what it is, what I'm saying there as well. Because for me, a lot of what they do and say is common sense. I'm not saying Eddie Hearn's perfect, not at all. Does he lie at times? Of course he does. But listen, with Frank Warren, I wish Frank Warren all the best. Okay, I want him to put on great shows, epic shows, pay-per-view worthy shows. I want him to do all this kind of stuff, and I wish him all the luck in the world. And I honestly mean that. Because why? For a couple of reasons. Number one, that's more great fight nights for me. Number two, that puts a little bit of pressure on Eddie Hearn to up his game to try and keep the gap apart or whatever it may be. Ultimately, for boxing fans, great stuff. Much like the rivalry between the PBC and Top Rank and Golden Boy. You see, you may be a fan of one particular brand, but the other ones you wish to do well to put pressure on the other ones. Why? Because you get more fight nights, better quality fight nights, right? And that's all I want here in Britain. Now, Frank Warren, he done an interview today with Kugan Cassius at IFL TV. And it was a pretty good interview, to be fair. He did get animated and a bit angry. And I think he kind of done that because he realised what he'd done. And that was wrong. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who watch the Frank Warren interview there and go, yeah, see, Frank Warren knows what he's talking about. Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren don't want the fight, blah, blah, blah. There was the 50 million. See, Joshua can fight on BT Sport. That's what they're going to be saying. Why? Because these people who say that don't actually know any better. And I'm going to try and educate you a little bit. But again, if there's a loophole, please correct me on this one. Now, he said that he's seen the contract, and that within the contract that Team Wilder offered, as if we all thought that maybe this subject was dead now. Clearly not. Okay, it's been resurrected again for a little while. So he's seen the contract for a $50 million offer to Anthony Joshua for the first fight, and should he lose, $30 million for the rematch. And Team Wilder, Shelley Winkle, whatever it is when you call him, wanted total rights to the entire event, the entire card, where it was, all the sponsors, literally everything. And that's fine. I mean, had Joshua and Eddie Hearn agreed to all this, that would have been fine. But there's a tiny little bit of a problem. Okay, first of all, when Deontay Wilder sent that email to Joshua, it was a 24-hour deadline, here's $50 million, do you accept it? First of all, Wilder should never have sent it, that's the first one. Number two, 24 hours. And number three, I'm pretty sure there was no rematch. I'm pretty sure that's what Team Wilder was saying. No rematch. I remember plenty of people talking about it, and I'm pretty sure that I spoke about it at the time. Again, drop it below if I'm wrong on that one. Or if I'm right, drop it below. So, no rematch, but yet he's saying that there was a rematch, and Joshua would have got 30 million in the rematch. Okay, that's fine. But for me, I think that he said that because he admitted that he's seen the contract when he should not have seen the contract. And the way to cover his tracks with that one was because Shelley Finkel, Team Wilder, approached Frank Warren to speak to BT Sport about potentially putting it on to BT Sport. How much money would you give us? Frank Warren said, this is where the 50 million is coming from. Okay, so yes, Joshua was guaranteed the 50 million and the 30 million for the rematch. Why? Because BT Sport were quite open to pay for it, just on the understanding that they get to show it. Now, a couple of things there. Joshua is legally obligated, contractually obliged to fight on Sky Sports. And again, Kugan Cassius addressed this to Frank Warren and said that. And Frank Warren started to get a little bit angry, a little bit animated. Why? Because he knew that, first of all, Shelley Finkel should never have approached Frank Warren in the first place, because this fight cannot happen on BT Sport. So Frank Warren tried to twist it around and said, but what if it's a purse bid? Now, he's right. If there's a purse bid, yes, Joshua, if Team Joshua lose the purse bid, yes, it can be on anywhere. It doesn't have to be on Sky, because the winner of the purse bid takes control of everything. But here's the thing, and Frank Warren knows this, and as I said, a lot of people will be looking at Frank Warren going, yeah, you're right. But for those of us who know, or at least I believe I know, that Joshua versus Wilder is a voluntary. It's not a purse bid. It cannot go to purse bid. And the reason it can't go to purse bid is because it's not a mandatory position. The only time a fight can go to purse bid is if a sanctioning body orders a fight and you can't agree on a deal, then it goes to purse bid. These are basic rules, right? So Joshua versus Wilder was a voluntary. It's not a mandatory. So there's no way in hell that was ever going to go to a purse bid. I'll give you guys a couple of examples of it. Joshua versus Povetkin. Povetkin is Joshua's mandatory. Had they not have agreed on a deal to start with, and Team Povetkin, Rybinski, World of Boxing, had outbid in the purse bid and won the rights, yes, Joshua would have had to fight on any network that Team Povetkin chose. And yes, that didn't have to be Sky Sports. And these are the rules, okay? But because they agreed to it, they agreed to Sky Sports, hence the reason why it's on Sky Sports. But when Joshua fought Dominic Brazil, for example, that had to be on Sky Sports because it wasn't a mandatory. It was a voluntary. When he fought Joseph Parker, it wasn't a mandatory. It was a voluntary. So it had to be on Sky Sports. Do you understand what I mean? So where Frank Warren says this, he knows full well that he's wrong on that one. What if it goes to purse bid? It isn't going to go to purse bid. It's impossible to go to purse bid. The only way that is possible is if Wilder drops his WBC title and becomes the mandatory for Joshua. That's the only way this can go to purse bid. Now, he said that Team Wilder wanted to own all the event, everything. You know, from the ticket sales to the location, to the date and the venue, to the ice cream sales, the beer sales, and the casino, and whatever else it may be. And yes, they would have owned everything. They could have done anything that they wanted. They could have chose a venue. They could have put it in Timbuktu. Okay, they owned the rights to that. But Joshua had to agree to that. But because it's a voluntary, it doesn't matter. They can put it on that, and they can sell the rights and raise the money with any networking broadcasters out there. As I said, you know, any networks in Germany, any networks even in America, because Wilder is not legally obligated to fight on Showtime. They could have put that fight on HBO, on ESPN. That's what they could have done. But no, they wouldn't have done. They would have put it on Showtime, of course. But it would still have to be on Sky Sports. That's the only stumbling block for them, that it had to be Sky Sports in the UK. It's impossible to be BT Sport. Let's do another example, shall we? Billy Joe Saunders versus Demetrius Andrade. That is Frank Warren versus Eddie Hearn. Okay, Andrade is Eddie Hearn's fighter, Billy Joe Saunders, Frank Warren's fighter. Demetrius Andrade is Billy Joe Saunders' mandatory. So this fight was going to go to purse bid, but they agreed to it before it went to purse bid. So therefore, Eddie Hearn owned the entire thing. If Eddie Hearn wanted to put it on BT Sport, he could have. But he didn't. He chose to put it on Sky Sports in the UK. He chose to put it on DAZN. Okay? So that's why Billy Joe Saunders, a champion, is fighting on a network that is not really his network. I mean, to be fair, I don't really know Billy Joe Saunders' legal contractual obligations with BT Sport. I don't know it, but it doesn't matter because it was a mandatory position. Another one with Maurice Hooker. Okay, I forget the name of the guy that he's fighting next. But again, that went to purse bid, and Eddie Hearn lost that purse bid. He wanted to put Maurice Hooker's even, his title defense against his mandatory on DAZN, but he lost the purse bid. So therefore, he can't put Maurice Hooker on DAZN. Does that make sense? But had Billy Joe Saunders, for example, if he was legally obligated to fight on BT Sport, his voluntary with Martin Murray, for example, when that fight was on. If Frank Warren had put in the purse bid for that, well, sorry, not Frank Warren. If Eddie Hearn had been still the promoter of Martin Murray, they couldn't have moved Billy Joe Saunders from BT Sport. They couldn't have done it. Unless, of course, Billy Joe Saunders is not legally obligated to fight on BT. So these are just the basic things. And I know I'm getting like a little bit tongue-twisted at times on this one. But you know what? It's basic stuff, and Frank Warren dropped a real clanger with this one, saying, what if it goes to purse bid? That's why Shelley Finkel approached him. But it was never going to go to purse bid, Frank, and you know it was never going to go to purse bid, Frank. It's impossible to go to purse bid, Frank. So therefore, Shelley Finkel approaching Frank Warren should never have happened in the first place. Should never ever have happened. Shelley Finkel knew that, and Frank Warren knows that, but that's not what they're telling the fans, because they're hoping that there's a whole bunch of fans out there who just don't understand this. They hear the word purse bid. Oh yeah, that's why. So it could have happened on BT. It couldn't have, because Joshua versus Wilder is a voluntary. Champion versus champion is a voluntary. It's not mandatory. I hope I made sense on this one. So again, if I'm wrong, if there's a loophole in there somewhere that Joshua could have actually fought on BT Sport and this fight could have went to purse bid, please let me know about it, because I'm totally oblivious to it. I've never ever seen it, ever. So Frank Warren knew this. So for me, it could be a case of he's just covering his tracks in the hope that a lot of people, and there will be a lot of people out there believing what Frank Warren said. But I'm telling you, it ain't true. Hey, listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Please let me know. Drop your thoughts below, click that thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.